This isn't Frustrated with Wrestling.
This isn't the Martin and Shithead Show.
This isn't even Rocket's Hideout.
This is
Extreme Championship Podcasting.
Oh my God!
I am your host, Double A Ron, a.k.a. Big Podcaster.
And I'm Shithead Dave, a.k.a. Big Podcaster. Are you Big Podcaster?
Yeah.
And we just fucked up.
We are the full-blooded podcasters.
Yes.
This is a podcast strictly about ECW.
Yeah, we're just going to shoot the shit about ECW.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We're going to start off with a big top 10 list.
Top 10.
Top 10 list. This is top 10 list of the most influential stars of ECW.
Of ECW, yeah. And a lot of people would think this is kind of, of course you would say that. Well, there was only about 15 stars of ECW.
Well, there was only 15 people. Like, that was camera people included.
Including Towel Boy.
Yeah, right.
All right. Would you like to start off?
Yeah, I'll start it off with my number 10. My number 10 most influential star of ECW is the Sandman. I mean, he really was just a trashy, redneck, backwoods, fucking douchebag American. He was a blue-collar American.
100% gimmick.
Yeah, 100%.
One lick of wrestling talent.
Not at all.
He'll admit it. Yeah.
He was just the Sandman. He came out, what do you even call those? Those look like sweatpants.
Like Zumbas.
Yeah, like he had the parachute pants at one point.
Well, if you want to go way back, I mean, the Sandman originated in 1993, and he came out in a wetsuit, a pink wetsuit, and a little boogie board.
Yeah,
and his name was the Sandman.
It was terrible.
Yeah, and then Todd Gordon was like, just let him come out with a cigarette and a beer.
Right.
And that became
Smash it over his head, come out to Metallica, and have a good old time. Him and his Singapore cane. He's my number 10 because, like, of all the people who are influential, Sandman got a huge pop from the crowd because he was one of the crowd.
Yeah.
And with a crowd like ECW had, I think that was important.
He was a guy that got over in ECW and not anywhere else. Like Hack Myers and, like those guys.
ECW was the place to go if you couldn't get over anywhere else because of their crowd. Mm-hmm. They went to, and it's not that they weren't afforded opportunities. Mm-hmm. Mikey Whipwreck was in WCW, as was, Public Enemy was in WCW.
Because of their work in ECW, But they were guys that just...
But they didn't make it in WCW is my point.
Yeah, nobody
wanted Public Enemy and all them, they were in ECW, they moved to WCW, and they failed there. Like, Public Enemy made a little bit of a run, but, they didn't anywhere mirror their success they had.
It gives Paul Heyman credit because WCW's like, wow, this guy's really good. They get a hold of him and be like, oh, crap. He really did have smoke and mirrors on this guy.
Right. I mean, and that's kind of the thing. Paul Heyman always reminded me, and this is for football fans, always reminded me a little bit of John Madden. John Madden took a team full of people that, they were older guys and nobody wanted them, and, there were people who people thought were over the hill, and he won a Super Bowl with them. Mm-hmm. So, and that's kind of what Paul Heyman did.
Yeah.
He took guys that, nobody would give a chance to or nobody wanted or just were old, and he won a couple of Super Bowls with them.
Yeah.
That's what Paul Heyman did, and the Sandman was one of those guys.
Absolutely.
So he was influential, I think, more from the fans' point of view than he was for the actual business. Mm-hmm. But I still think he was important to the business.
Yeah. My number 10 is just like the Sandman, New Jack. Because New Jack was a guy that was too dangerous for smoking out in wrestling.
Well, he was just too crazy.
He was the wrong color and the wrong section of the United States. He was down in Kentucky.
Right.
And they moved him up. Him and Mustafa, they moved up to Philadelphia.
Right.
And,
which is, I mean...
South Central.
South Central City, yeah.
No, they're from South Central LA.
Well, yeah, they're South Central, but it's a South... It was definitely more diverse than Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, yeah, the thing about the
or wherever they were in Kentucky.
The ECW arena, they always said was on the wrong side of the tracks in Philadelphia.
Right.
It was that way.
It was New Jack's kind of place.
Yeah, and New Jack was a definite guy that, he used the hardcore to get over. I mean, and
he did get over.
Yeah, he got over huge.
I don't think anybody will ever forget him and Spike Dudley jumping off of them taking on the Dudley Boys, and they jumped so high.
And he doesn't get enough credit, but he's used in every damn video package. You always see a New Jack dive somewhere. He was on the video game, diving.
Yeah.
And I think he's just a very underrated star of ECW. Rightfully so, because he did have a lot of problems with the law. He got fired a lot.
He did get fired a lot.
That could have stifled his push, but he's my number 10.
Going on to number 9, I got the Dudleys.
Dudleys were huge.
The Dudleys, I've got them at number 9, and a lot of people might say that's low on the list for the Dudleys. It's strictly because who I've got higher on the list just did more for ECW as a brand than the Dudleys did. Now, the Dudleys gave ECW a long-running, legitimate tag team. No other tag team in ECW can say that. ECW was full of a bunch of ragtag teams where it was just they took 2 singles competitors, threw them together.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or, even stables of people, they weren't together for that long. Like the full-blooded Italians, they were switching people
left and right
all the time. And I think Little Guido was the only guy to ever stay there. Like, he was the only guy to ever be,
from the start,
From the start, a full-blooded Italian. They kept changing people. And the Dudleys, they got rid of Sign Guy, they got rid of Big Dick Dudley after a while.
There were 8 of them.
They were, but Bubba Ray and Devon, which is what I mean by the Dudleys.
Yeah.
Bubba Ray and Devon, they were always the Dudleys. They were a great tag team. There was a reason they never really lost the belts. And when they did, they didn't lose them for long. I think their longest reign not having them was when Sabu and RVD had them.
Yeah.
But that was because RVD and Sabu, they were getting over.
Yeah, I think there were 8 or 9 time ECW tag champions.
Yeah, I believe 9 times when it was all said and done. Which, if you're a 9-time any kind of champion in any federation, you're obviously an influential character. I just think that, no disrespect to the Dudleys, I just think that who I've got ahead of the Dudleys, they're just more influential.
Okay.
Who do you have as number 9?
Number 9 is Sandman.
All right.
Because, same thing. A lot of my guys higher up on the list just did a lot more for the longevity of ECW. Not to say that Sandman didn't do a lot, because in '95 he was their top heel. He had a lot of wars. His influential cigarette angle, that was first time ever done. I think Raven said it best when he said, Sandman's every fat guy on the couch just looks at wrestling and goes, I can do that. But Sandman's just a little bit dumber and a little bit drunker and can do it. And
right.
He did. And he
did it well.
Yeah, I mean, it took him all the way to WCW.
For not having any fucking wrestling talent.
No.
At all.
I mean, now we have...
And he'll tell you that.
Now we have
even
the network.
He says...
Go back and watch 1993. You'll find the Sandman in the pink wetsuit.
Yeah.
He sucked.
Well, he sucked all the way to the end.
Yeah, he did.
Let's not lie.
Yeah.
He sucked all the way to the end.
And now the only thing they ever bring him back...
And I mean, Sandman was in WWE, too, but in the failed thing that was the
new breed.
The new breed of ECW, but...
I mean, his entrance is bigger than anything he's ever done, and good for him, because he doesn't have to kill himself anymore. He just does the entrance, he hits Eugene with a cane, he comes in, hits the zombie with the cane, and that's it.
Yep.
That's it for Sandman, and good for him.
Yeah. Joey Styles is number 8 for me.
Yeah.
He's not a wrestler, but Joey Styles was one of the biggest stars, and one of the reasons why, kind of like what we said it in a Frustrated Wrestling podcast, that Joey Styles, we weren't talking about Joey Styles, we were talking about Tony Schiavone, and how he could make anybody sound good. Joey Styles did that in ECW by himself.
They offered him a job. WWE called him, and he did it. He did the one-night stand. They put him on WWE television for a little bit. He got fed up. And you talk about pipe bombs. Joey Styles had the fucking pipe bomb of the century.
Well, when he left.
Yeah, and now he works for WWE...
.com, I believe.
.com, and he said in an interview, some shoot interview at a convention, he doesn't want to go back to commentating ever. He's like, I love my office job. I don't need to. Right. It was thing. He didn't want to commentate to begin with. No, he was a natural.
But he was so good, and he made he would they didn't even need a ring announcer. Joey Styles could have done it all.
First one ever to do a pay-per-view by himself. Yeah, and he did it great. Everything he did was great. It was obvious that he wasn't a commentator. There were breaks in the action when there shouldn't have been. Stuff like that, only nitpicking stuff that, people with the background or people who just watch a lot of sports like I do will hear that kind of stuff, unnecessary breaks. But
as a wrestling fan, you'd have never known. And
Yeah,
I think that, like what Tony Schiavone did for WCW, Joey Styles did for ECW.
Well, he did it for ECW with indie guys, where all the knowledge was from tape trading.
Right.
So that's a lot of fucking knowledge he put out there.
So that's why he's my number 8.
My number 8 is the Dudleys, and we pretty much covered it with yours. I mean, just the team of the Dudleys from the Raven gimmick of the Dudleys. Now, he created the Dudleys backstage. He did, and Devon, like Bubba, didn't even come in until '96.
Right.
And who would have thought putting this big fat guy that just walked in the building with Devon Dudley that was going to work, because the Dudleys were doomed to fail.
Oh yeah, they were.
That gimmick sucked. And then these two guys, never met before, just overshadowed it and became like the greatest tag team to come out of ECW, and arguably one of the greatest tag teams of the modern age.
Oh yeah, I don't even think arguably. They're not arguably one of. They are one of.
I think they are.
They are one of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about greatest tag team.
Not of all time, but actually of their era, better than the Hardys, better than Edge and Christian. Because the Hardys, the big spot fest, the Dudleys got tag team wrestling. They got the flow of a wrestling match. You go back and watch some Hardy matches; they're pretty sloppy.
I'll tell you what, though. Speaking of Raven, I believe he's your number 7.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about it. Number 7, you've got Raven.
All right, Raven. He was only there for 3 years, but he changed ECW forever. When Paul Heyman and Raven got together, you had some of the best storylines, best promos ever in wrestling at that point. I mean,
quote the David, nevermore.
Quote the shithead. You talk about Jake Roberts and all the great promo guys. Raven, oh my God, and to think about the guy Scott Levy, the real.
Well, if you're gonna, I'm gonna stop you for a second, because Raven was good at promos. Mm-hmm. Don't put him in the league.
Oh really?
Of
I don't know.
Jake Roberts.
I don't know his mind, brilliant, but maybe you're right. Jake Roberts.
Yeah, but Jake Roberts never had to yell. He didn't have to have a flock.
That's true, yeah.
He didn't have to talk about and you're gonna send me off into a tirade, because Jake Roberts is probably the best promo guy in my opinion. Period.
Yeah, okay, but I would put Raven up towards that category of the great promo guys in history, because Raven in ECW.
I don't know. He can go quote himself "Nevermore" for all I care. I don't know. Especially his WCW stuff was just so bad.
Well, that was just management.
You have to.
Look what they did with Stevie.
If you're gonna talk about somebody's career and put them up into the best of all time.
Yeah, but we're talking about ECW.
Right, but if you're going to talk about one of the best promo guys ever, because you're the one who brought Jake Roberts into it. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to put him up there, you got to look at his whole body of work, and WCW was almost pure shit. From my point of view. But as far as his ECW stuff,
I think he was one of the best.
He was now for ECW, of course,
because Raven did a special thing where heels. A lot of people root for heels. I love heels. Back in ECW.
Well, first of all, everybody loves heels. They just don't want to tell you.
Nobody liked Raven. Not even the Outcast.
Raven didn't like Raven.
Everybody hated Raven. And even Scott Levy is the exact opposite of Raven. He's the most goofball guy. This is what I've heard and seen in shoot interviews. Most goofball guy, can't take anything seriously, but when he was on that Raven kick, nothing could make him crack. No, Blue Meanie dancing around the ring, nothing could make him crack. He was Raven. And the storyline with him and Dreamer,
Oh, actually, that's one of my favorite storylines.
But it shouldn't have worked in '97. The classic, they went to summer camp together, and, it sounds so cheesy like a Friday the 13th movie. You add in Beulah. But that works so perfectly.
Yeah, it did.
Because of Raven and Dreamer.
Yeah.
The talent.
And, I mean, I'll agree with you. I mean, Raven was able to do things in ECW. Now, ECW, this was just ECW, period. Mm-hmm. But Raven was able to do things in ECW that shouldn't have worked. Mm-hmm. But they worked, and they worked well. And I think that Raven, especially his backstage, behind-the-scenes stuff, Raven was extremely influential.
Yes.
I don't have him on my list strictly because
he was there for so short.
He was there for so short of a time.
Yeah.
you know, which actually kind of brings me to my next guy. Number 7 for me is Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah,
Bam Bam, he did a lot for ECW.
He was there for short, too.
He was there for a short time, but look what he was able to do. Bam Bam was an established, legitimate wrestler.
Headline WrestleMania.
And, yeah.
With LT,
and he, people remember, like, Bret Hart, they always talk about how, he won the first King of the Ring. Well, he had to beat Bam Bam to do it, and that was a classic match.
Yeah. Well, when
if you ask anybody in the business, they'll tell you. And I've seen this on shoot interviews, and I've never heard a bad thing about Bam Bam Bigelow. They'll always tell you, consummate professional, amazing worker in the ring. He put guys over all the time.
Yeah.
I went back and watched a lot of Bam Bam. He didn't go over very often.
No,
he lost a lot.
He worked with Taz.
Yeah.
I mean,
period. In his whole career.
Yeah.
He didn't go over a lot. He lost a lot. But look at what he was able to do. I mean, for ECW, he would promote. He would advertise. He did a lot of stuff.
That's how they got New Jersey, Asbury Park, for Living Dangerously. It was
right.
Bam Bam's
it was Bam Bam's hometown.
And Bam Bam
and
did
he hooked it up. Yeah, he hooked it up for him. And it was a great show.
Yeah, Bam Bam was there to win titles so other people could elevate off of him. Because the start of the 23-month reign for RVD started with Bam Bam.
Right, and Bam Bam
started with
Bam
Taz.
Bam, like I said, Bam Bam brought a legitimacy to ECW.
Yeah.
Where they had a bunch of indie guys, some of them could go, some of them couldn't. Bam Bam, you knew he could go, and he made these guys look so good. And based on the shoot interviews that I've seen, Bam Bam would work with people before shows, after shows, to help them better themselves as wrestlers so that the whole product could get better.
Heyman knew if he got Bam Bam, people know if Bam Bam goes there, then that must be a worth it place.
Yeah, because
if he's working with Taz, Taz is huge.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why he's on my list as number 7.
Okay.
So moving right along to number 6, I've got, for the almost the same reason, I've got Terry Funk.
Definitely.
Terry Funk is number 6 because, Terry Funk, especially back then, was one of the most, and probably still is one of the most respected guys in all of wrestling. Because of not only his family lineage, but because what the guy has put himself through.
Yes.
In order to... The guy is still wrestling.
Yeah.
He wrestles at little promotions just to help them out.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't need the money. There's no way. I know he's had some problems in the past that probably drained his bank accounts, but...
Yeah.
I
can't remember which retirement that was.
Yeah,
he's had
right.
He's had
a retirement match in every single Fed, I believe.
I think Terry Funk is the reason why ECW evolved into a legitimate place to work. It would have been so bad if Terry Funk didn't stop in and help out. It would have been like 1993, just the whole thing. It wouldn't even made it to 1997. They wouldn't have got the first pay-per-view if Terry Funk wouldn't have taken that locker room under his wing and taught them how to be professional wrestlers.
No, they wouldn't have. And that's why I've got him, number 6, it's not a bad spot on a top 10 list.
Yeah.
It's in the lower half, but you'll understand why, I think, when I reveal my top 5. Well, but we're going to go with number 6 for you.
Tommy Dreamer.
Oh, yeah, Tommy Dreamer's my hero.
Which, 6, some people say, what, he embodied ECW, he was ECW. But there was stars above him. Dreamer was always the workhorse. And I respect Dreamer as much as I respect number 1 on my list, but it's hard, to put Dreamer in the top 3.
Right.
I considering who mine are.
Right.
But
I think for me and you, I haven't seen your list, but I think our top 4 are. I think we've numbered them the same. I could be wrong. We'll find out. Mm-hmm. But your number 6 being Tommy Dreamer, and it sounds like to me our 5 and 6 are just flipped, because 6 for me is Terry Funk. Mm-hmm. 6 for you is Dreamer. Your 5 is Funk.
5 is Funk, yeah.
My 5 is Dreamer.
And for the same reasons.
So, Tommy Dreamer, though, for me, ECW was a fed for the fans. Mm-hmm. And that was glaringly obvious by everything that they did. And Tommy Dreamer, which, like you said, is my hero, made me believe that if I were to pursue it, I could do it. Because Tommy Dreamer was a regular guy.
Yeah, ECW was basically a promotion where it's just like, we know we have crappy equipment. Let's see how big...
ECW was an indie fed that made it.
The goal was, let's just see how big we can make this for the fuck of it.
Right.
We're going to be the top 1, 2, or 3 company in the world because we say so and we're going to kick ass.
Right, and they did it.
And that's what Tommy Dreamer did. Yeah.
That's all Tommy Dreamer ever did.
Yep.
You know, he got to where he got strictly like...
Tommy should be dead.
Yeah. I mean, when he broke his neck, I think it was Big Sal or whoever was that chokeslammed him through, like, I think it was like 8 tables.
Oh, Big Dick Dudley.
He broke his damn neck and everything. He should have died He should have died from that. He's broken his back. He's broken his neck. I know he's had surgery on his leg at least once or twice.
Yeah.
Like, he shouldn't be able to move.
Yeah.
But he's still walking around. He's still wrestling. Mm-hmm. You know, he's still out there being Tommy Dreamer. And I think that really embodies ECW.
Yeah, he was the heart and soul. And that wasn't just a gimmick. He actually believed.
So that's why he broke my top 5 ahead of Terry Funk. That's no disrespect towards Terry Funk or anybody below him. Mm-hmm. I just think that Tommy Dreamer did so much for ECW from a fan's point of view. Yeah. But we're going to move on. We're going to go to number 4. Number 4 for me is Taz.
Same here.
Okay. Taz was... Oh my God, he was ECW.
He was the man.
He was this tough, fucking bullheaded bastard. And you can't say that the guy couldn't go, because I've never seen a better T-bone suplex.
I mean, every suplex he did, he made up, besides the regular T-bone. But everything, I mean, Taz, or Joey Styles started calling him Tazplexes, because he'd never seen him before.
Right.
You'd take the guy in some hold, and you throw him.
Well, right, but he could suplex you from anywhere.
Yeah, and that Taz mission,
Right.
I mean, Taz was the toughest man around.
But what he did for ECW was, he brought a tough guy. Mm-hmm. And a legitimate, a legitimate tough guy image.
Besides the Dudleys, he's the only one WWF wanted.
Just beat the hell out of people. And he did. Mm-hmm. And he did it well. And I think his reign as champion were paramount to the success of ECW.
Yep. I mean, and speaking of, Taz was only 5'5", 5'4".
Yeah, he was a short 5.
He was the top guy.
7 or 5'8" or something like that. He's a short guy, but he was the top guy.
Yeah. Number 3, Rob Van Dam.
Yep, RVD for number 3.
My all-time favorite wrestler.
Rob Van Dam.
The last star.
We can't say enough about Rob Van Dam.
He'd be number 1 if my number 1 didn't start ECW, arguably. But RVD was the last star of ECW.
Well, he's the biggest star of ECW.
By none. Well, yeah, but he was the last shining star.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, I think Rob Van Dam was its biggest star. Because if you look at Rob Van Dam's ECW career, when he was the tag team champion with Sabu, the tag team titles were the titles that mattered. When he was the television champion,
that's the title
he was the one... He was the champion that people paid attention to.
Imagine having an Intercontinental Champion so popular and so good that it overshadows the heavyweight title.
Well, and we almost did in WWE when it was Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. When Ultimate Warrior had the Intercontinental title, people kind of, Hogan's got the world title, but look at Warrior.
Yeah.
And it was when I think Shane Douglas had the world title at the time. People were like, Rob Van Dam's got the TV title.
How many people?
I want to watch his match with Jerry Lynn.
How many people had the heavyweight title when Rob Van Dam had the television title?
He held it for how long?
There was Taz, there was Shane, Mike Awesome, Masato Tanaka, Justin Incredible. They all held it while Van Dam still had that title.
I think Dreamer when he was
maybe, but
he had the TV title for so long.
He did, and
it started when we heard blowing whistles, and it ended when those ended.
I'm surprised Bill Alfonso didn't make our list.
Yeah,
but people would chant RVD from the beginning to the middle to the end.
Well, and
of the
see,
show.
that's actually the thing about ECW. They didn't chant a whole lot of names. Mm-hmm. They always chanted RVD.
It's because he was the only guy that was really himself. He talked about being stoned because he was. He talked about being one of the best in-ring competitors because he was.
Right.
I mean, his matches with Jerry Lynn still holds up. I mean, I put those, and I probably
for a smaller guy, he's strong. Mm-hmm. I think there was a match, speaking of Jerry Lynn, where he knocked out Jerry Lynn, and he just deadlifted him for 5 minutes
and
around the ring,
for him to wake up, and they continued.
Yeah.
this might set you off again. I know you're an 80s fan. I would put Jerry Lynn RVD feud up against Steamboat Savage.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that.
That's that caliber. Those matches, a series of matches.
No.
It was
none of their matches came close to the Steamboat Savage match.
I think so. I think it wasn't for me.
Now the rivalry, I will give you that the rivalry was good enough, but
it was too.
You were not going to bring in WrestleMania 3.
Yes, I got to.
No,
there's two guys in their prime that just knew every single bit of each other. It was excellent.
There's a reason that WrestleMania, that match, there's a reason that Savage Steamboat was WrestleMania 3 and RVD Jerry Lynn was ECW. Like, there's a reason. Like,
Living Dangerously 98 is what I would put up against it. I don't know. That's just... I'm very ECW biased.
I'm aware of that. That's why we're doing this podcast. And I love ECW. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And I love RVD, and I love Jerry Lynn. I think Jerry Lynn...
very underrated.
Yeah, extremely underrated wrestler. I don't like him as a personality. He wouldn't have worked anywhere else. Yeah. As far as like the other feds were concerned.
Well, he didn't work in WWF.
Right, he didn't.
That was just management's problem, but
WWE Creative does that a lot.
Yeah.
So that's not a new thing. But I will say that Jerry Lynn and RVD, I will put them as probably one of the greatest. Not the greatest rivalry that ECW had, but one of the best. Like, easily.
One of the best.
And Rob Van Dam, easily, in my opinion, the biggest star ECW had. So we're going to move right along to number 2. And for me, number 2 is Sabu.
Yeah, same here. Talk about one of the best feuds ever, him and Taz.
Yeah. But the thing about Sabu was, I can't think of a rivalry that I wouldn't put towards the top. RVD Sabu, great rivalry. Taz Sabu, great rivalry. That was actually probably the most deadly rivalry they had.
Oh, yeah.
Those matches were so brutal.
They really did hate each other.
That match was so brutal, but Sabu was hardcore.
Without Sabu, ECW wouldn't have got over as extreme as they did. Sabu was doing things from Japan that he brought to the States. That
he was doing Japanese deathmatch kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, just like even Heyman said, I mean, look at the guy.
If he did stuff... He was doing stuff that not even Mick Foley would do.
No.
And Mick Foley is widely regarded as the craziest wrestler.
Yeah. All right.
So we're going to go number 1, and if you haven't figured out who this is by now,
yeah,
it's Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas easily number 1 most influential star they had.
It's who Heyman had in mind, being the head guy. He wanted Francine as the head cheerleader. He wanted Shane Douglas as the jock. He was the guy that reined in, the night the line was crossed, reined in Extreme Championship Wrestling when he threw down the NWA title. I mean, that is still talked about today.
Oh, yeah.
And without Shane Douglas, I mean, it wouldn't have the attitude. It wouldn't have, they would still be, well, not still, but they would have been still an NWA affiliate. They would have been they would have been NWA's ECW. They wouldn't have been ECW. Shane Douglas arguably is the reason for ECW. Mm-hmm. I say arguably because obviously Paul Heyman's the one, he's the mastermind of it all. But he wouldn't have been able to do it without Shane Douglas. Nothing we've talked about in this top 10 list happens without Shane Douglas. Period, point blank. End of story. Him and Taz, I think those are the top 2 ECW champions that when they held the belt, it was a big fight atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, this is our heavyweight champion, and
like, I remember,
is going to be a big match.
Like, Shane Douglas, I remember his matches with Taz. I remember his matches with Tommy Dreamer. Mm-hmm. I remember his match with RVD. I remember all of those because they were all good. And that's why we've got him at number 1.
Yep.
So let us know what you guys think. Do you guys have a different top 10? Do you disagree? Do you agree? I know you disagree.
Yeah.
So let us know, and put your comments in below. You can get to me also on Twitter at Arathios.
You can follow me at shithead_Dave.
Let us know. Comment. Thanks for listening.